Hey guys, wanted to hop on and give a quick word for him. Today we are talking about Farmer John. That's my father in law. He lived in Iowa most of his life, and this is for him. You're not stuck, you're planted. What looks like loss is the beginning of the harvest. In the fields of Iowa, a farmer named John and his family have farmed the same land for generations. Every spring, John walks to his field before sunrise. He kneels down, he picks up the soil, allows it to run through his fingers, and then he prays for a good harvest. Last year, it seemed everything that could go wrong went wrong. Last winter was harsher than usual, and it left the ground difficult to till. Heavy rains flooded parts of his fields, and when it was time to break the ground, the soil had finally dried up enough that he could plant. His tractor wouldn't start. It took every bit of the funds that John had to fix his tractor, but John knew something about farming and something deeper about faith, so he persisted. Before a single seed could be planted, the ground had to be prepared. John had to till that soil and break up the hardness that was left behind by what seemed like a never-ending winter. To those who were looking from the outside in, it just looked like an empty field. But John knew. He knew that the unseen work matters just as much as what is visible. When the soil warmed up in the spring, John loaded his planter with corn seed, one after another, seed after seed, row after row, field after field, mile after mile. He planted those tiny kernels into the ground. Each one looked small and unimpressive, but John knew, and so he waited. Far beneath the soil where no one could see, that kernel began taking on water. The hard shell began to soften, and over time, it broke open. What looked like loss was actually life beginning. The seed began to break down, and if it were examined at that moment, it would look like something had gone terribly wrong. Without the breaking, there is no multiplying. So a tiny root was pushing downward, and then something green pressed upward through that soil. Soon, little green rows began to appear across John's field. Fragile and small, unnoticeable unless you looked close. Then the season shifted. The rain stopped. Weeks passed, and the ground began to get dry. Then came the storms, the wind, the insects, pressure from every direction, and then no rain. Some stalks bent low, others broke, and some did not survive. Yet John still walked the rows. He knew he couldn't control the storm or the rain, but he could remain faithful in it. As summer pressed on, the corn began to grow almost overnight. The roots deepened, the stalks strengthened, got stronger. Leaves spread wide under God's provision. What began as a little kernel buried in darkness now stood, reaching toward the light. The tassels appeared, and the ears began to form. Silks stretched out, waiting for wind-borne pollen to take hold. Each strand carried the possibility of life, something John could not control. And that was the point. The outcome was no longer in his hands. It had always been in God's hands. Minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, the corn grew under God's provision. The same God who formed it also sustained it. What began as one seed became many on a single ear. Growth was slow, but it was certain. Through seasons, the green stalks began to turn brown, and the kernels hardened and dried. The life cycle was reaching completion. The stalk that had endured the storms, the drought, and the heat was now finishing its purpose. Not to remain, but to multiply. Harvest time had arrived. John began to gather the harvest. The bins filled and overflowed. As he worked, he reflected on the journey. Ground that had to be broken before anything could grow. A seed that had to fall into the ground and die. A kernel that had to break to bring forth new life. A sprout that had to endure storms. A stalk that had to remain faithful and obedient through unseen seasons. A harvest that came only in God's time. Sometimes in life, we feel buried, when in truth, God is planting something in us. What feels like we're crushing and breaking is the process. It's preparing you for what's going to grow inside of you. And the greatest harvest comes out of the hardest season. Because like that corn that grew in John's field, real growth begins in the darkness, where only God can see, and only God can bring the increase. Genesis 8:22. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest shall not cease. John 12:24. Except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. 1 Corinthians 3:7. So then neither is he that planteth anything, neither he that watereth, but God that giveth the increase. Psalm 104:14. He causeth the grass to grow for the cattle, and herb for the service of men, but he may bring forth food out of the earth. I love you, and Jesus loves you. I hope that today's word touches someone's heart today. I hope that you have a blessed day. God bless you all.